just a few weeks now, but I guess I'll go ahead and just let the cat out of the bag. One of my favorite movies from the Knoxville Horror Fest that we went to was Trash Fire. Saw a shit ton of movies. This is the one that stuck with me even after I got home. It's one of the only ones that I wanted to rewatch again, and I have. Trash Fire is just a good fucking movie, man.
So I've only watched it the one time.
Yeah.
You enjoyed it just as much, or maybe more second viewing?
Just as much.
Okay. This is one of those weird films where I could see maybe having a different opinion on the second viewing, just because you kind of know, and maybe you could either it's ruined for you, this kind of surprise, or you have things to look for.
Well, to be fair, I do feel like the surprise was ruined for me at the festival, and I still...
Yeah, it kind of was.
Yeah, and I still ended up liking it, obviously, a lot. This is coming from Richard Bates, who did Excision, which I still haven't seen. Chris Crum tells us that it's very good. I have it lined up on my Shudder list of things to watch, actually, but I haven't seen it just yet. So this is from Richard Bates. From what I understand, he has a way with dialogue.
Okay. Yeah.
And I feel like the dialogue is the most successful part of Trash Fire by far.
It's one of those movies that relies on it.
Yes.
Like, without dialogue, there's almost really no point. Well, without good dialogue, I should say. Without dialogue, then it's just a silent film. But it really kind of leans heavily on that. And it's a strange film because it's like two different movies put together. Because the tone of the first half is just nothing but inappropriate humor. Yep. And you're laughing at things you probably shouldn't be laughing at, but you're doing it.
Right.
And then shit gets real heavy, like emotionally heavy on the second half.
Yeah.
And it's really, how do you bridge the gap between those two things?
So how do you feel like they did bridge the gap? Because I thought it was bridged quite well.
Yeah, I like it because as the movie flows, I feel like you are growing, or the movie grows with the main character.
Okay.
Because he's also growing throughout the film as this really immature guy who's doesn't want anything serious or close to him, and then as he changes, so does the film.
Yes, that's a great way to put it.
Yeah, my only complaint really with this film, and I think Chad had the same complaint, a couple other people had the complaint, and it's a minor complaint, don't get me wrong, very minor, was that there were certain parts that drug maybe just a little bit, or perhaps it just overstayed its welcome, just a hair, not too much, but just a hair.
Yeah, I mean, we've had this conversation in the past already, and I don't agree. I think that if you're going to have that transformation that you just said was awesome, with him being this immature guy that's not ready for anything, evolving, thinking about his family and stuff like that, you have to have that rather prolonged journey. Now, in a way, I guess I kind of see what you're saying, because could you have cut maybe one or two scenes, like when he goes to the old house site?
That's exactly
and stuff
the one
I'm
thinking about right now.
Yeah, I know. So could you cut that out and we have the exact same experience? Absolutely.
Right.
Does it add just a little bit extra to let you know that he's kind of, done some things?
Sure.
Yeah, sure. It does add a little bit of that, but it's not necessary, I guess.
Yeah, and I just think, all the things it does well, there's just a few places here where you clean it up a little bit to make it almost that perfect film.
So the movie revolves around this guy that we've been talking about for a while, who's
Sure.
this immature, bulimic guy who just doesn't give a fuck about much of anything, especially his longtime girlfriend. Just really takes advantage of her. She seems to be an excellent young lady, would rather be with anyone else in the world other than him, but she's in love with him, and that's love is a motherfucker, right? So throughout their ups and downs, they always have their fights. They always end up coming back together. And one thing happens throughout the film, and they realize that, hey, like we need to take this shit more serious. And part of that happening means that they have to go visit his family. And this is not a family that you want to be visiting. He gives her a heads up. He says, hey, you do not want to meet these people. You don't want to meet my grandma. And apparently his grandmother rose him and his sister because their house burned down when they were little. He wasn't there, but his sister was, so she's just a deformed fucking creature at this point.
Man, just tell me how you really feel about the sister.
She's a deformed fucking creature. Just an abomination of man.
What's so crazy is about their relationship is how genuine it feels. I feel like this is something that some kind of relationship counselor can put on and be like, look, this is what I'm talking about when I'm talking about toxic relationships. It's this right here. You guys are doing it. You know.
Speaking of counselors, there is a counselor in the movie, and there is some really fucking funny parts around.
That's almost like the opening, isn't it? Is it almost the beginning?
That part is the very beginning, but they go back a couple times. Sure. There's just funny shit going on throughout it. Very funny. Like if you look at it on iTunes, it's listed as a horror comedy. I don't know if that feels right. Because this isn't like a Tucker and Dale sort of thing.
Yeah, it's almost misleading. I don't know where else you put it, but yeah, if you don't have any background information of it, you don't listen to someone talk about it, and you go in thinking horror comedy, I'm thinking, like you said, Tucker and Dale, I'm thinking Dead Snow, I'm thinking these really fun kind of movies.
Slapsticky kind of stuff.
I don't really think you're gonna have fun with this movie. I mean, like, it's a good movie to watch, but if you're in that mood, that's not what you're getting.
Right. In fact, this is a rather grim movie when it's all said and done. But the comedy that's in this movie isn't necessarily trying to be funny. It's just like the stuff that this dick says because he's a dick. Yeah. You know, and that's what makes it so funny. Like as much as listeners might not understand this, longtime listeners will. He reminds me of Dustin Reed, who's just a fucking asshole. He used to be on the show, just a prick in every facet of life. But he would say shit from time to time that was really funny because it's offensive. You can tell
it's the shock value. You're so shocked you giggle.
Yeah,
and that's exactly what happens.
And beyond that, it's just well written. Like I feel like every conversation feels like a real conversation in this movie. And that's not only a credit to the writing, but a credit to the actors and actresses as well. I thought they all did a fantastic job.
They really did. I will say when it does take a turn, it does horror in an interesting way. I don't think it's also, once again, not going to be heavy-handed horror. It's almost more undertones, like uncomfortable undertones. I guess there's one really big thing where it's like, you're just kind of like squeezing your knuckles like, what the fuck's gonna happen here? And that's the kind of horror you get on the second half. It's just these undertones and these what's about to happen right now.
Yeah. And that's what's weird about it, man. Like I could see some people.
That's not everyone's kind of horror.
It's not, but it is mine. So it makes it hard to be like to sort of come at this one with an objective point of view or something.
Right.
Just because, frankly, I liked everything that this movie did. I think I'd go as far to say it's one of my favorite movies I've seen this year.
Oh.
I really, really liked this one. For me, it all comes down to the writing. I think this is one of the best written films that I've seen this year.
Yeah, I'm not quite as high on the hog on it as you or even Chris. I don't think. What did Chris give it, an 8? On the website?
Something around that, probably.
An 8.
I would definitely give it an 8, yeah.
It's hard to argue with that, to be honest.
Yeah.
I think that's a fair score. I think it's well-deserved. It's just not going to be everyone's cup of tea, despite how well it does everything. Because some people aren't going to like that inappropriate humor, because it's really dark.
It can be, yeah.
And then that weird, implied kind of uncomfortable violence or horror that happens at the end, that's also not everyone's cup of tea.
I can agree with both of those things. But what I will say is, while I am reluctant to call it a comedy, I'm also kind of reluctant to call it a horror movie as well. Yeah. But what I will call it is, even though it has obviously both of those things, it's just a good movie, man. I feel like people that like movies, like of all shapes and sizes, like if you like horror and you like comedy and you like just movies in general, you're just a cinema guy or girl, you're probably going to like this movie because it has a little bit of everything in there.
I think this might be a really good gateway kind of film into darker horror because it doesn't do anything that's going to necessarily gross you out.
Sure.
I don't think it's going to keep you awake at night.
Just the mental side of things.
Yeah, I think, but the fact it is a good movie, the fact it does do those things that it does do very well, I think it's a kind of lets you tiptoe into the water. In a way, kind of like Green Room could do if it wasn't so goddamn violent.
Sure, that's a very violent movie.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I mean, this is very different in tone than Green Room, but I see what you're saying.
Yeah, right.
Absolutely. So I don't know, man. I think it's rather apparent from here. I absolutely recommend it to really anybody, I think. How about you?
Yeah, this is one that would be disingenuous and unfair to not recommend. It does everything well. I think my only complaint is it's so close to being even better of a movie in my eyes. I just kind of wish that we could have trimmed some of those weird quote unquote fat pieces off.
Okay.
But it doesn't ruin the movie for you. It's just when you're nitpicking and you're trying to review things, that's just the things you look at and talk about.
Yeah, very true. Very true. It's available. It's available right now. You can watch it on iTunes. You can watch it on Google Play or Xbox or PlayStation or whatever the fuck you want to do. You can do it. For me, this made me really want to go back and check out Bates's back catalog and see what else he has going on. I think I'm a fan. I know I'm a fan, and I really look forward to seeing what he does next and where he goes because I'm there now.
I need to do that as well because I'm also not as well informed, and I would also be curious to see how much is just pushed by this cast who does an amazing job.
Yeah, man, and that really can't be stressed enough. This cast is very, very good. There's really only 4 characters, and they're all excellent.
Yeah. You know what? I will say this. We saw a lot of good movies at that film festival, Knoxville Horror Film Festival. This may have been... This and Master Cleanse had to be the 2 best acted.
Yeah.
I mean, just the acting is so solid. That's what happens when you get, like, known actors.
Yeah.
So, recommend.
Super recommend. Let us know what you think whenever you check it out. Let us know. Hit us up on Twitter or Facebook, whatever the fuck you have, or good old-fashioned email. We'll take those too. I've heard from a couple of people that I don't do social media. Well, goddamn, we got a contact us section right on the website. You can type in the little form, hit the space button.